Zimbabwe cash crisis worse. Talking about Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the one factor included the thing they're called monetary indebtedness. Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RT News updates. In a new article here, can anything stop the next global recession? And in short, the answer is no. So today I have just one article I want to share with you, but more importantly, as always, you can scroll down below to find out more for yourself. Just want to skim the surface and give you something to think about. But it's very interesting, as always, that we're hearing more and more recessionary talk. So expect to hear more updates from people from all over the world on how the economy is slowing down. And they'll never really present us with any solutions, but we all know what's the best way to hedge against an artificial economy that's been propped up by trillions upon trillions of fiat currency that's been added into existence from nowhere. It's going to be precious metals. But before I dive further in today's article, as always,
the numbers, they're pretty staggering. The vast majority of Americans have nothing put away at all for retirement.
Sometimes it's called retirement crisis, but people aren't doing well at all.
Has taken up the cause to rescue retirement.
For the first time since the 1940s, Americans are reaching retirement in worse financial shape than their parents.
This is not something that's going to happen next week or next month. We just don't have enough money.
So here I have an article from the news publication called The Week out of the UK. But it says, can anything stop the next global recession? And of course, we're all in agreement that there's no way of stopping what's coming or what's currently underway. But it's just interesting to see more and more news syndicates come out with different ways of explaining how we arrived here. But in actuality, we all know that the whole 08 and 09 crisis was never really solved. It's more so papered over. And so also I have a couple graphs I want to show you in reference to how much currency was brought into circulation and currently exists on the central bank's balance sheet at this current point, which is also going to be a problem. But it says major financial institutions may be powerless to prevent the next global economic downturn from turning into a full-blown recession. And so here we have the idea that this next situation is coming, or next slowdown, they're listed possibly as a full-blown recession. But more than likely, if 2008, 2009 was a recession, it's good to say that something that was never solved completely back then, but yet 10 years have been artificially propped up, might be a lot more than just a normal recession that we've had in the past. It says in a speech on the future of the Eurozone, the IMF Deputy Director David Lipton warned of the depleted power of central banks and governments to combat another economic shock. So the depleted power. So it looks like the monetary tools that have been implemented, i.e. quantitative easing, might have been the best they could have done for that particular problem. So the question will be, what's going to be next? It says, quote, the bottom line is this: the tools used to confront the global financial crisis may not be available or may not be as potent next time, he said. So the tools that are currently underway now in some parts of the EU may not be as potent next time, and especially if it's a full-blown recession or, God forbid, a lot worse. So that lets me know that they're going to have to be very creative in what they choose to do. And that probably means more so looking to create more funny money to purchase assets that we could have never imagined, predominantly here in the U.S., whether it be equities or any other assets that the Federal Reserve might feel is appropriate to further try to prop this thing up. Scroll down some more. It says a program of quantitative easing introduced by central banks in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis pumped huge amounts of cash into the economies to offset the impact of the credit crunch and kept major financial institutions and business afloat. So here we have the primary reason for everything that was done over the last 10 years, to prevent a credit crunch and to keep the major financial institutions and businesses afloat. To sum that up, to keep the too big to fail banks in operation. And since that time frame, they've gotten even bigger. And the Federal Reserve has attempted to pass all types of new restrictions. It requires them to have more capital on reserves in case of another situation, which would prevent them from needing a bailout. But we all have an idea what our next bail might be, and it may not be out, but rather bail in. Scroll down some more. It says, however, the Daily Telegraph reports that, quote, these efforts were so vast and the recovery of the economy so weak in the decades since the crisis, the central bank's balance sheets have swollen to a level that leaves little room left for maneuver. So just to give an idea of how swollen the balance sheets of these banks are, I'll scroll to this other little visual aid here. And so this is actually from a PDF file. I'll put this below. But if you see here, it says total assets of major central banks. So here we have to the very left top figure, and it says total assets of major central banks, which includes the ECB, Bank of Japan, PBOC, and the Fed. And then here we have in 08, it was less than $6 trillion in total of actual funny money that existed in circulation as well as on a balance sheet. But here we have the 08-09 crisis, and immediately took that first spike up from roughly 6 trillion or so in existence to over 9. And ever since the Great Recession began, it's been increasing ever since. And look at the numbers up to this point here, where there's been a slight pullback. But there'll be no way that they can reduce these balance sheets at the current level they're at which looks like about 20 or so trillion dollars in total. So just something to keep in mind. And then to wrap this up, it says, all this means that amid the rising debt and a worldwide monetary tightening, quote, a mounting weight of evidence suggests the world is one shock away from a contractionary vortex that would be extremely hard to control. So here we have this article source here talking about a contractionary vortex that will be very hard to solve. So this is just some of the information from mainstream news sources that we're hearing. And the idea that this article starts off by asking a question: can anything stop the next global recession? And if anybody in their right frame of mind is reading this, then we all know that there's nothing that really can be done that can stop what's currently underway. The biggest thing the public can do is protect themselves and to try to hedge themselves from the financial meltdown that will occur because of everything that's been done, not in the best interest of the people, but more so for the too big to fail banks and all the other institutions that have benefit heavily off of all the monetary madness that's been brought into existence since the last Great Recession. And so this is just one article of many more to come, I'm sure, but never presenting any solutions on how people can protect themselves and hedge against monetary policy that's already benefited those in the 1% of the population, while leaving the other 99% out hanging to dry. So just want to shine some light on this article here. Would love to hear your thoughts. Can anything stop the next global recession is the question I'm asking you. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Would love to hear your thoughts. Other than that, look forward to bringing you more news updates. Enjoy your day.